Hey, my name is Winifred, and I'm a couple therapist with the pharmacist. And today, I'm very happy that you have decided to spend your time with us. Okay, so we're going to be talking about safeguarding your relationship, and I'll be showing you the the workshop outline. In today's session, we'll be looking at the identification of challenges that we are facing right now, as even as we come out of the phase phase two, right? What are the adjustments that we that have to the disruption, and in terms of our regular stress coping mechanism, there is also a reduced option in that, as well as the overloaded demands of like working, family life, and all that. I will also be talking about 5 tips that we can use to manage. And one of the questions that I hear a lot is, when should couples seek help if they are in trouble? And I'll be talking about that, the warning signs. And lastly, I'll also talk about positive habits that you can cultivate in the relationship. Okay, so before we begin, I thought I would just like to start the session by doing a simple reading and visualization exercise. And in this, I just like to invite you, if you're comfortable, to probably just close your eyes or just lower your gaze. And I just want to spend like 1 or 2 minutes trying to help all of us to settle in. As you can say that just now, I was also a little bit like kanjo, and then like, I didn't know that I was live already. So I appreciate your patience and like waiting for us to get started. Yeah, I apologize for that as well. Okay, so this breathing exercise will just be for 1 and 2 minutes. Like you to be comfortable, and also uh, sit in a way that is upright rather than maybe slouching or all that. Sorry. Yeah. Sit in a comfortable way, and I just want to invite you to focus on your breathing. As you inhale, imagine the air going in through your nose and to your nose down to your lungs as you breathe the fresh air. Just follow the normal rhythm of the breathing in and breathing out. Do this a few times. Breathe in and feel the positive energy coming into your body. And as you breathe out all the negative tension that you may have, the stresses that you may have experienced today or for the past week. I also want to invite you to visualize a positive moment in the week, something that made you happy. Perhaps it would be like a phone call with a friend, or a hug from one of your children, or a happy time that you have as a family. Think of this positive moment for a bit. Allow the emotion to come into your body as well. The joy, the peace, the serenity. And if you find that your thoughts are wandering, that is okay. Just bring it back to the present moment by focusing on the breath. Okay, so that was a really quick and easy way to kind of like center yourself. The breath is always with us, and therefore, whenever you feel some anxiety or some negative emotion, you can always turn to this option to help you to be centered. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you. All right, so I saw this article days ago on like in the news on what other challenges that Singapore employees are facing with regards to telecommunicating, as well as like during the lockdown as well. And I think you yourself may also experience it. Like the challenges with commitment in child rearing, as well as how all the tensions that you have within the family, the proximity that you have, would also increase the conflict that you have with your partner. So the first point that I want
That
to
I
talk
want to
about
talk
is
about
about
is about
distractions.
distractions.
What we are experiencing right now is a disruptions of our normal life. You know, one of the key things that I hear from many people will be like, oh, this is such a strange situation that we are in, especially during the circuit breaker, right? Like you cannot go out, you can't have socialization, you know, you are not, you're encouraged to be on your own so that we do not pass the virus to other people. So the disruptions in terms of socialization is actually very, very challenging. There is also a disruption to your routine. If you are somebody who travel for work, you work overseas and all that, right now you can't do that and you are home and then, you know, or your spouse is traveling a lot but not anymore right now, you will have more times with each other and that routine is disrupted and it's difficult. And the rhythm that you have as well, you know, like in the normal time we know how we can manage our routine, we know what to expect. You know, your child may be in school, there is a certain routine that you follow and that is kind of like disrupted and you need to adjust and adapt to that. Familiarity is also affected. What is familiar now is kind of like gone, you know, or not so familiar anymore. We need to know what it is, the new norm. Okay. And of course, we talk about the challenges from working from home just now. And I think more importantly is the socialization that is discouraged. And we are actually creature of, we need social connection. And when that is taken away from us, it is actually stressful. And note that I'm using the fact that we are that is taken away from us because all these are enforced on us. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. All right. So basically what we need to do is to adapt. And for adaptation, not everybody can adapt quickly. Some people may adapt that take longer time to adapt while others are quite swift in adapting. Okay. And so the adaptation is also a painful process if you are not used to it. And that adds on to the challenges or the tension that you might be experiencing. Okay, so during this period of time, one of the challenges will also be the feelings that we have, you know, and I think a lot of the feelings, as I listed here, are not easy emotions to deal with. Things like fear of the future. And if you know of like friends or people who have been laid off, that can also create some anxiety in oneself too. What is my future going to be like? You know, and there's also frustration because things are out of our control. There may also be grief surrounding what is familiar to us. There could also be a sense of inadequacy and boredom of the monotony that you're experiencing. Anxiety as well as confusion. Okay, at this point in time, I'm just wondering if there is any question. No? Okay. All right. So the second point I want to talk about is the reduced outlook for stress management. You know, during the pre-COVID time or pre-circuit breaker, we usually have our own ways of managing our stress level through like mostly with maybe with like social engagement, meeting up with friends, or like having a drink or two after work and all that. So right now that has been limited, although I think with phase two, we can start meeting up with friends, but even then there is that fear of maybe some people may still not feel so comfortable about it. And cabin fever and monotony is also one of the key problem, you know, being in the same environment over and over again. You're basically doing everything at home. You know, you're working there, your source of entertainment is there as well, and that can be challenging. Okay. And personality type, meaning like if you're somebody who is extroverted, this period of time will be particularly challenging because you would want to, you usually draw the energy from other people, but right now you may be limited in that area. And so where do you get that energy? Where do you get that fun? And where do you get that enjoyment? So if you're somebody who is extroverted, this period of time will be more difficult for you compared to somebody who is quite used to being home, quite used to doing things on their own and be reflective about it. Okay. And I think the last part will be Zoom fatigue, right? Because everybody is kind of like done through online at the moment. with your family, with your friends, meetings and everything are all done through Zoom, which can be exhausting. And Zoom fatigue is actually a real thing, as is demonstrated from here. Okay, just a couple of stories that I also want to share with you with regards to like the challenges, with regards to the rhythm that we have and all that. Sometimes we don't usually work with our partner, and so when we are together with our partner and watching how they work, that can also create some annoyance as well. Like for example, I'll just share my husband is somebody who actually like to use the speaker for like the speaker when he speaks, whereas personally I find that really really annoying. And even in my own relationship, that can create a tension also. So these things, small things like that, actually will become escalated during this period of time. Okay. The third point I want to talk about that can contribute to more stress would be the increased demands. We mentioned about work, like there is a blurred boundary and then there might be reduced productivity. You cannot function the way you usually function. You may not be as efficient because of the limitation. We may not have certain machine in at home, so that can be stressful. And of course, with children, your kids, if you have children who were doing like home-based learning, there's extra load that you need to take care of. And I want to talk about like maybe, aside from COVID, you may have family issues as well. Maybe like some family members who are feeling unwell, and then they're like maybe dealing with illness, dealing with like chronic children who may be having health issues and all that. And then like challenging news that you hear from other people that or family that can also affect you. And I also know of some families who are separated, especially those who may be working in Malaysia and all that. And that physical separation from family is really, really stressful too. You're missing the children and all that. Okay. So I'm going to move on and talk about strategies. I hope to share 5 strategies with you and that you'll find something that you can apply. Okay, so the first strategy is about awareness and acceptance that change is difficult. We are undergoing a very big change right now. And so the first step is to acknowledge and say, yeah, the world that I know, that I'm familiar with, is now gone, is different. And so I need to prepare myself to face it with in different ways. Okay. Secondly, is to extend kindness and compassion to myself, especially when I'm feeling short with, or if I get angry more easily, I get more annoyed. I need to kind of like learn to forgive myself, and forgive each other as well. As sometimes I know that in my anxiety, I could lash out at my family members and my children and all that. And so this is the time when you don't want to be so harsh on yourself. You have to learn to be more gentle and kinder, and say that, this is a difficult time, and be quick to maybe make peace with the family members when you lose your temper. Okay. Another one will be notice the good. When we are feeling negative, our brain is wired to actually focus on the negative. You remember all the things that make the negative things that maybe your partner say to you, like all the comments that maybe in typical time will not affect you, but right now it will become more sensitive to it. So our brain is wired for negativity, and to counter that, we need to notice the good. And this is a practice that you have to rewire the brain to see what are some of the positive things that are going on. Perhaps there are certain days when you're doing better and that you can manage your emotion, or you can deliver what your bosses have asked of you. So make a list of that at the end of the day. This is a way of training yourself to focus on the good and to create positive emotion.
Yeah, so the next point will be on increasing positive emotions. And what do I mean by that? How can we be happy when so many things are not going well for us? So I'm not talking about being happy, but I'm talking about like instilling, like having some humor in the house, like when things are tension, actually amusement or humor can help. And practicing gratitude as well. What can I still be grateful for during this moment? How can I show that gratitude to my family members? Or how can I also extend that to myself? And I want to talk also about creativity. And because I've seen among my friends or some of my page clients, they have been very, very creative and challenged themselves to maybe bake more or cook or like, show kindness to friends by buying food and generosity and all that. These are all very, very good practices to help you connect with other people. And for couple who are doing well and flourishing, they do continue to put in effort to kind of like affirm each other, to create, to share what they liked about each other and what they appreciate about each other. Okay. And last point is about creating a positive climate in the home, because you're going to be spending more time at home. How can we make that space clean or organized and neat? How can it be a happy space for everybody? And I think one of the key thing is also to allocate your own space, as well as maybe for your spouse or for your kids, if you are able to do that. And how to make their home environment soothing. Maybe you can think about like having plants or buying flowers to make it beautiful. And when I talk about space, I'm also talking about like, is that a space where you are able to communicate with each other? A lot of time, a couple that some and see me, they kind of like talk about the problems when they are very, very angry. That would actually be not ideal. What would be more helpful is to have that space and say that, is this a good time for us to have a conversation? Because if we are not prepared for difficult conversation, it's much easier for you to escalate and to get angry and to end up in a fight. Okay. So we need also be disciplined in finding the right moments to talk to each other. Okay, so the next point will be on the warning signs of ailing relationship, meaning what are the indicators that perhaps the relationship is not going so well and maybe it is time to seek help. Um, One of the challenges that I personally face would be when couples come in and then they have been like not talking to each other for many years, and there's a lot of resentment that is built between them. And at that point in time, it is much harder for me as a therapist to do any meaningful work. So I like to share the importance of having early intervention. Do not wait till like the problem is like, oh, serious enough to see someone. Because a lot of time by then, it might be more challenging, and the hurt that has been built over the years is much higher also, and that makes it very, very difficult to work through the problems. Okay, so some warning signs of ailing relationship will be emotional disconnection. You no longer feel that connection with your partner. The second point will be you are living a parallel life. You are doing your own things, maybe you are engaging with your friends, and then you're no longer have that intersection with your partner. Okay. The third point would be the lack of interest in the other person's life, and there's minimal communication. In terms of communication, there are three types of communications that happen in couple relationship. The first one will be what I will call the logistic and administrative kind of like, okay, what are we going to eat? Where are we going for the weekend? Who's going to pick up the child? Who's going to get the groceries and all that? So that will be more of the communication in terms of functional and administrative. The second conversation will be about your external stress. Maybe you might be talking about the challenges with colleagues, challenges with your kids, or the stress that you are facing with your parents, with friends, and all that. These are not to do with the relationship, but you're still talking about it. And the third communication is what I call the deep communication, that is about the two of you, about the relationship. And so a lot of time when couple come and see me, they no longer talk about that third conversation. They no longer talk about themselves, and there's no in-depth conversation. That will be a clear sign that the relationship is not in a good place. Okay, the fourth point will be there is no physical intimacy, and if this is a mutual decision, there are couple who do have like sexless marriage, but they are mutually agreeable on that, and that will not be a problem. But then if one party is really unhappy about it, then that is a problem that we want to pay attention to. The next point will be on like comparing and keeping scores, or comparing your partner with someone, your friend's partner and all that, or compare like how much I have done versus what you have done, and these are actually indicators that you're no longer on the same team. And we started out in the relationship by saying we are on the same team, and when you are no longer on the same team, that's when that sense of loneliness in the marriage will creep up. Okay, the next point will be on like there's absence of respect and trust and kindness in the relationship. The key point, like successful relationship, what will be the secret for them? The secret is actually kindness and generosity towards each other. If you go back to your early relationship when you first started, there's always that kindness and the benefit of a doubt, like the example that I gave will be like, if your partner is late, you will not think that they do it intentionally to make you wait, but you will say that perhaps, something crop up, and then so you give that benefit of a doubt. But when you the relationship much when your relationship is in a negative place, you're less likely to think that the partner is actually thinking for you. You will probably be more negative and say, oh, they do it intentionally. They want to hurt you. Or when you have an argument and have different perspective, you may think that they purposely are on the opposing sides in order to hurt you, or to just make things difficult. So when there is that absence of respect and trust and kindness, we want to pay attention and do something about it, and to repair the relationship. And the last point is also important, that when you start to forget your love story or why you are together, and that will be a clear sign that you will need intervention or need to seek professional help with the relationship. Okay. Do I have question at this point in time? No? Okay, I'll move on. So then what is the foundation of a positive relationship? I just want to share 3 key points. And this is also based on research that has been done by Dr. John Gottman. He's been studying couple relationship for more than 40 years. So how he does it, he studies the relationship that are flourishing, as well as relationship that are in disasters. And these are what the couple who are flourishing will be doing. They have a deep friendship. So deep friendship will mean that you know each other, you are seen, you are appreciated. There is that understanding and knowledge that we are on the same team. And this will also mean that you continue to update what you know about each other. In the early days of the relationship, we also focus on building that foundation. We pay attention to what our partner likes or don't like, or that we will want to know what are their perspective about things. So I noticed that for couples who have been together for a long time, they stop being curious about each other, and that will be a pitfall. Okay, so I want to encourage you to kind of like continue to be curious about your partners. So the second foundation for a positive relationship will be effective conflict regulation. How do you negotiate differences that you have? You know, in any relationship, there will be some level of conflict. And what will be your conflict style? Are you conflict avoidant, or are you more more confrontational in the sense that you'll bring up problems when you see it? And when there is a disconnect between the conflict style, there can be a problem as well. So very quickly, I want to talk about like problems in relationship. There are actually two types of problem. The first one is what we call a solvable problem. So as the name suggests, you would be able to find some solution to it. For example, things like maybe who's going the argument that it surrounds about like who's doing the housework. So the solution could possibly be like coming up with a routine or a schedule and agreeing on that. Okay. The next problem, what we call the perpetual problem, will be more challenging. And perpetual problem, as the name suggests, is you can't quite resolve it. And this is more to do with your personality, with your upbringing, with your perspective about how things should be. So for perpetual problem, you may not be able to resolve it. And what needs to be done is actually to have understanding, so the understanding of why your partner may be doing things in a different way from you. Okay. And in effective conflict regulation, there are specific skills that you want to learn also. Like for example, how do you prevent yourself from escalating? From my work with many of my couple, typically there is one person who is more conflict avoidant, and part of the reason for that is because they get overwhelmed during that conflict, and then they're fearful that the conflict will escalate into something worse. And so what happened is, in the middle of a conversation or a heated conversation, they could walk out of it, and when they walk out, the partner will be even more upset, because you think that, oh, how is it that you don't care about the problem that we have, and that you just walk out of the conversation. But what is happening here is actually an overwhelming sense of like distress, and this is what we call flooding. We are flooded, like what happened yesterday, right, with the rain and all that. Okay. So the flooding of emotion is a real thing as well. And when that happens, the conversation is not going to be effective. It is not going to be productive as well. And what needs to happen during this time is actually to do some sort of self-soothing, to regulate yourself, to bring yourself to a calmer level before you continue with a difficult conversation. Okay. And the other skill that we don't really talk about is, how do we repair after an argument? Do we sweep it under the carpet, or just let it be quiet until the next eruption? Or do we kind of like debrief and say, what happened in that conversation? Or what happened for that fight that we have? What can we do to prevent it? How can we react differently? And so with that debrief and repair attempts, you can actually prevent it from happening again. Okay, and another point that I want to talk about today would be softened startup, like as compared to a harsh startup. Softened startup will be when we bring up issues in a way that our partner can listen to it better. And so it will be conversation whereby I talk about my feeling rather than what you have failed to do. When we start a conversation where you always didn't do this, or you didn't care about how I feel, these are actually precursors to a negative conversation, because the partner may already feel blamed, and in that sense, the needs that you are presenting may be masked also. Okay. And so why do we want to have clarity and be calm is also to help us to identify what are the needs that we have. So I want to talk about like positive communication, how to tell what you need in a positive statement rather than negative. Like for example, we say that I don't want you to be so stubborn. Then the positive way of doing it will be, I like you to be more open or to accept influence, to listen to me when I have something to say and not to brush me off. Okay, so kind of like couch it in a positive statement rather than a negative one. So the third foundation for positive relationship will be shared meaning and legacy. What this means will be like, what are your dreams? What each of your dreams, and like in terms of like what sort of family do you want? What do you want for your children? So these are the things that can actually help to connect you with each other, to remember them and to have that big picture and vision of life that you want together. So couples who have strong foundation, they have deep friendship, they are effective in their conflict management, and they also share meaning on how life should be with each other. Okay, so these are just some tips on like how to build positive habits in a relationship. So I'm just gonna like highlight one or two. I'm gonna talk about expressing appreciation as well as like be willing to apologize. You know, so appreciation, as I mentioned earlier, we very often we feel like in couples that I see, they feel like they are being taken for granted. They no longer express what the partner is doing good for them, or saying thank you, or to acknowledging them. So expressing appreciation is particularly important during this time, to show that you notice what your partner has done. And not only to notice it, but to also say, I noticed that you helped me to put these dishes away, or you helped me to make prepare a good breakfast. Things like that. Small things like that actually will assure the other person that you are seeing the effort that is being put in. Okay. Why do I talk about be willing to apologize? We are all human and we make mistakes. And I think in the moment of like stress, and like in a moment of where there are a lot of conflicting emotions, it is very easy to lose our temper or to misunderstand the other person's intention. And so when you're willing to make apology, it actually helps to repair the relationship sooner rather than later. The fact that we are willing to apologize or to recognize our own failing allows the other person to see that we actually respect them as well. Okay, so I feel that that is actually a simple but hard to do. We may know it in our head, but we might not be able to do it. But a lot of times, a good apology will be what needs to be said for the relationship to come back together. Okay. And then and in going on to the next topic, I want to talk about like engage in dialogue, like have conversation with each other. Do not avoid keeping things to yourself, because the more you keep it to yourself, then the pressure will build up, and it is more likely that you will end up in a situation whereby you explode on each other. And I think that having that courage to have open communication with each other is really, really important. Okay, the next part, I'm going to show you a video, and which kind of like demonstrate what is quite common conversation between a partner.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not.
Sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't!
Try to see things my way.
Okay, so have you had that situation before whereby you try to talk about the problem and then maybe your partner kind of like just try to fix the problem for you? So I thought I just want to share that video with you. All right, we've actually come to the end of the lecture for today. Before we leave, I just want to encourage you to think about like some of the key takeaway that you have. What is the one lesson that you will bring back with you? And then like also to commit to one thing that you will do differently in terms of the relationship. Small actions that you can take in order to improve or build a stronger relationship. All right. And I also sharing the message here, like a strong marriage isn't magically created when you say I do. It is built on a lifetime of I do's. I do love you, I do cherish you, and I do choose you. So how do you show that you're choosing your spouse every day in a small ways? So that will be the challenge that I want you to think about. Okay? All right. Yeah, question and answer. Is there any question that I can answer or clarify, anything that I can focus on? Sorry, I'm going to get Celine to read a question.
Okay, so the question we have is, what are some self-soothing techniques?
Okay, self-soothing technique will be the relaxation. The quick way will be the relaxation exercise that I shared with you in the beginning. To kind of like just do something to slow down your breathing. That's actually quite important. When you are like breathing very fast or feeling very anxious, it actually makes you feel worse. And so the first step will be to slow down the breath and focus on the breathing, and then do something that can help you to feel better. So that could be like maybe picking up a phone and call somebody, or like hugging a soft toy, or you're hugging a child, or take a walk, or like go and do some exercise to kind of like help you to calm down. So self-soothing, it could also be like holding yourself and just stroking very slowly. And the idea is really to bring down the anxiety, the flooding to a normal state. Okay. Okay. Tension with parents. I see some questions on tensions with parents. Okay. Is there a way to communicate and put things across more humorously? If you have a good relationship with your parents, yeah, that will be something that you can try and like lighten the moment. You know, when you have humor and also help in taking away the pressure or the heaviness of it. But I think it really depends on your relationship with your parents as well. How do you normally communicate with them? And I think the understanding of what will help them to be more receptive and to be more open. Conflict with parents is a little bit tricky because they are quite set in their own way. So it will be more on you in like how can you make the adjustment or to help them understand your position, help them to see your point of view. And then that would require quite some amount of communication, you know, and I think that will be what I will suggest. And to find the right time to have that conversation with the parents. Hope that answer your question. Okay, maybe there's also another question on conflicts with elderly folks or children. With children, because I don't really have the context of what kind of a conflict. Is it in terms of like disagreement of ideas or what they're doing? I would say like, so broadly speaking, it will really be like trying to also hear them out. Sometimes the elderly or they have fight or something because of the needs that they have that are not being met. And occasionally it could be like not being listened to. They will not ask for their opinion. And I think for children it could also be sometimes about like they won't ask for their opinion or they feel like certain things were imposed on them. Yeah. So for elderly, for parents, the focus will still be on clear communication and like how to be calm in that moment so that you don't end up like escalating the fight or the argument and the quarrel. And then it goes back down to how do you calm yourself? How do you bring yourself to a level where you can talk rationally? When we are angry, it is very difficult to control. And so the first step is actually to help yourself not to be so angry first before you talk. Because I think when you speak from a place of peace or calm, it will come out differently from when you speak from a place of anger or agitation. So I think the recommendation will be to first pause and say, okay, I'll come back and talk to you when I'm calmer, because I can't talk to you right now when I'm very, very angry. And I may end up saying things that I don't mean. I may end up saying things that are hurtful. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. My email address is as follows. If you feel like you want to contact me or email me or ask any questions, it will be here. winnie@promises.com.sg. If there is nothing else, I want to thank you for spending your time with me today. And I also want to apologize again for the technical problem in the beginning. I appreciate your patience and also your understanding. Let me see. Will you share the slide?
Okay?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I will share the slides with you guys. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Welcome. Thank you very much. All right. Have a beautiful day ahead, and wish you all the best. Books that you can recommend. Okay, one of the books that I find personally helpful would be Seven Principles of Making Marriage Work. It's by John Gottman. I will put it in also in the list and the email, and then they will send it to you. I'll give one or two recommendations on books as well. Okay? All right. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much again for being with us. Bye-bye.